Right now, somewhere in your house, there's an object made from something that died 300 million years before the dinosaurs even showed up to the party. Your toothbrush, your phone case, that plastic spoon you stole from a restaurant and never returned. All of it has the exact same origin story, and it's way weirder than you think. So let's go back, way back, back before bones, before oxygen was even breathable, back to the actual beginning. Imagine you wake up 300 million years ago. No tools, no phone, not even bones yet. Just you standing on a planet that barely resembles Earth. And your mission, for some reason nobody will explain to you, is to create a plastic toothbrush. Good luck. There are no humans yet. No civilization. You're not even the main character of this story. The main character is something much smaller, and it hasn't even been born yet. You look around, wondering where to even begin. The ocean stretches out in front of you, full of tiny organisms drifting through the water, completely unaware that millions of years from now, their great, however many greats, grandchildren are going to end up as a Bic pen. And it hits you. You can't make plastic. Not yet. First, something has to die. Billions of somethings. Step one, wait. Unfortunately, you cannot rush death, no matter how much free time you suddenly have. Tiny sea creatures, algae, plankton, they live their short little lives drifting through ancient oceans, and one by one they die and sink to the ocean floor. You're still hundreds of millions of years from a toothbrush, but hey, at least the process has technically started. One layer of dead organisms isn't nearly enough. You need millions of years of them, stacking on top of each other, layer after layer, while sediment slowly buries everything beneath the seafloor like the world's slowest, saddest lasagna. The weight becomes unbearable. Heat rises, pressure builds, and after enough time, more time than your brain can actually comprehend, something incredible happens. The remains of all that ancient life transform into something that has never existed before. Crude oil. Congratulations, you've created the rawest, ugliest, most useless-looking ingredient in this entire story. But oil sitting underground does nothing for anyone. You need to find it, pull it out, and figure out what's actually hiding inside it. So you dig, you drill, you pump millions of barrels out of the earth, and you discover this thick black liquid is hiding something incredible. Long invisible chains made of carbon and hydrogen atoms. Hydrocarbons. These chains are the secret ingredient to literally everything that's about to happen. But right now, they're tangled together in a mess, mixed with fuel, just in a dozen other substances you don't need. You can't build a toothbrush out of chaos. You need to sort this out. So you build a refinery. You heat the oil until it splits apart into different layers, like sorting ingredients out of a soup nobody ordered. Gasoline goes one way, jet fuel goes another, but one specific piece, something called naphtha, catches your attention. This is the piece you actually need. Except naphtha isn't plastic either. It's just another puzzle wearing a different disguise. So you heat it again, even hotter this time, until something strange happens. The naphtha breaks apart at a molecular level into tiny building blocks called monomers. The most useful one is called ethylene. You're getting closer. But a single ethylene molecule sitting by itself can't become anything. It's basically a paperclip lying alone on a desk. You need thousands of them, millions of them, all linked together. So you force them to bond, one after another, into massive interlocking chains, like snapping together an endless string of paperclips that absolutely refuses to stop growing. Scientists call this polymerization. Everyone else just calls it the boring part with a cool result. And when enough of these chains link together, something happens that shouldn't make sense. A liquid chemical soup transforms into a solid material that can be melted, stretched, and reshaped into nearly anything you want. Polyethylene, the most common plastic on the planet, and also the reason your blender, your shampoo bottle, and your kid's pool toy are all secretly related. You've done it, except not really, because right now what you actually have is just tiny plastic pellets. Raw material with no shape, no purpose, nothing remotely close to a toothbrush. So you melt them down. You build a mold in the exact shape you need, and you inject the melted plastic inside under enormous pressure. Seconds later, it cools, hardens, and pops out a perfectly formed object that didn't exist 60 seconds ago. A toothbrush handle, a bottle cap, a phone case. Somewhere, a tiny ancient sea creature is rolling in its non-existent grave. But hold on, because plastic almost didn't take over the world this fast. For decades, it stayed a niche material, mostly used for buttons and combs. Then World War II happened, and suddenly the world needed cheap, lightweight materials at a scale nobody had ever attempted. Parachutes, helmets, aircraft parts, Plastic stepped in to replace materials that were too expensive or too scarce to keep up with demand. After the war ended, factories that had been mass-producing plastic for the military suddenly had nothing to do. So they pointed all that manufacturing power at regular people instead. Plastic toys, plastic furniture, plastic packaging. Within a decade, plastic went from wartime substitute to the material inside basically everything you own. 300 million years of ocean life, burial, pressure, heat, chemistry, a global war, and an industrial factory pivot. Also, you could brush your teeth for 30 seconds this morning. But here's where it gets genuinely strange. That ancient organism took millions of years to form. The object you just created from it might survive in your hand for 12 minutes before you throw it away without a second thought. And unlike the creature it came from, this object doesn't decompose. It doesn't return to the earth the way the original organism eventually did. It just sits in a landfill, in the ocean, breaking into smaller and smaller pieces, but never fully disappearing, like the world's most committed house guest. So in a strange, almost haunting way, that ancient creature is still here. It just exists now as a piece of plastic, floating somewhere on this planet, long after everything else from its era turned to dust. Most people think plastic is just packaging, convenience, garbage. But actually, it's a fossil, a direct, unbroken link to something that swam through oceans millions of years before the first human ever stood upright, learned to talk, or invented the concept of littering. And now that you've successfully built a toothbrush out of a dead sea creature, you might as well use it to ignore your dentist for another 6 months. They'll never know.